The moment Sarah Chen heard those 3 words from the elderly janitor, everything she thought she knew about success shattered like glass. She had built an empire from nothing, a chain of upscale restaurants that stretched across 15 states, each one a testament to her relentless drive and business acumen. At 38, Sarah was the youngest female CEO in the culinary industry, her face gracing the covers of Forbes and Fortune. But success had built walls around her heart, brick by brick, until she could barely remember the struggling single mother she'd once been. Tonight, she sat in the corner booth of her flagship restaurant in downtown Chicago, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, her signature auburn hair tucked under a baseball cap. No one recognized her. That was the point. These undercover visits had become her ritual, a way to see the truth behind the polished facade, to catch the mistakes her managers tried to hide, to find reasons to push her staff harder, demand more, cut costs deeper. The restaurant hummed with the usual Friday night energy. Wealthy patrons laughed over $30 appetizers while servers glided between tables with practiced smiles. Sarah's critical eye caught everything. A water glass that sat empty for 45 seconds. A server who forgot to offer fresh pepper. A busboy who moved too slowly clearing table 7. She made notes on her phone, her jaw tight with disapproval. This was why she did these visits. Standards were slipping and heads would roll. She had just lifted her fork to taste the Chilean sea bass when she noticed him. An elderly black man, perhaps in his 70s, moved slowly through the dining room with a mop bucket. His uniform was impeccably clean despite his work, and something about the careful way he moved caught her attention. He wasn't just cleaning, he was studying each table, each guest, with an intensity that seemed out of place for a janitor. Sarah watched as he approached a young couple 3 tables away. They were clearly on a first date, both nervous and excited, dressed in their best clothes, though those clothes had seen better days. The young man's jacket was frayed at the cuffs, and the woman's dress, while lovely, was obviously from a discount store. They'd ordered the least expensive items on the menu, splitting an appetizer and 1 entree between them, their eyes darting to the prices with barely concealed anxiety. The janitor stopped near their table, pretending to clean a spot on the floor. Then Sarah saw him do something extraordinary. He bent down, appeared to pick something up, and approached the young couple with a small, folded bill in his weathered hand. "Excuse me, folks," he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that seemed to light up the space around him. "I believe this fell from your table." The young man looked confused. I'm quite sure," the janitor insisted gently, pressing the $20 bill into the young man's hand. "Perhaps for dessert? The chocolate souffle here is something special. A night like this deserves something sweet to remember it by." Sarah's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She knew exactly what had just happened. That money hadn't fallen from their table. It had come from the janitor's own pocket. She watched, transfixed, as the young couple's faces transformed from confusion to understanding to gratitude. "We couldn't possibly," the young woman began, her eyes glistening. "You already have," the janitor said with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Now you just have to promise me you'll enjoy it." "That's all an old man asks." He shuffled away before they could protest further, leaving them staring at the bill in wonder. Sarah sat frozen, something uncomfortable stirring in her chest. She'd been so focused on her sea bass, on her notes, on finding faults, that she'd almost missed this moment of pure humanity happening right in front of her. She found herself watching the janitor more closely as he continued his rounds. Over the next hour, she witnessed his quiet generosity again and again. He slipped a coloring book and crayons to a tired mother, struggling with a fussy toddler. He noticed an elderly woman dining alone and stopped to chat with her, pulling up a chair for just a few minutes, making her laugh at something he said. He helped a businessman whose laptop had died by letting him use the restaurant's back office to charge it and finish an important email. Each act was small, invisible to most of the diners lost in their own worlds. But Sarah saw them all, and with each one, something inside her began to crack. When her dinner was finished, she couldn't help herself. She approached him as he cleaned near the kitchen entrance. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I'm Sarah. I couldn't help but notice. You gave that young couple money earlier. That was your own money, wasn't it?" The janitor looked up, and she was struck by the depth of kindness in his dark eyes. "Yes, ma'am. Name's William. William Hayes. But why? I mean, on a janitor's salary. She stopped, realizing how condescending that sounded, but William just chuckled. A janitor's salary is more than many people have, ma'am. And those kids reminded me of someone. Who? Me and my late wife 52 years ago? I took Dorothy to a fancy restaurant for our first date. Spent 3 months. Savings on it. I wanted her to know she was worth everything I had. And she was. His eyes grew distant with memory. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Lost her 2 years ago to cancer. Now I just try to help young love along when I can. She would have liked that. Sarah felt her throat tighten. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't be sorry, ma'am. Be grateful. I had 50 beautiful years with the love of my life. Not everyone gets that. Now I've got my work here, and I've got chances every day to make someone's evening a little brighter. That's enough for anyone. She studied him for a moment. This man who cleaned floors and gave away what little he had, who found richness in kindness rather than bank accounts. You must have seen a lot working here. What do you think of this place? William smiled, but something flickered in his expression, something sad and knowing. It's a beautiful restaurant, ma'am. Finest in the city, they say, but sometimes... He hesitated. Please, Sarah urged. I'd really like to know. He leaned on his mop, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes I think we've forgotten what really matters. Everyone's so busy looking successful, they forget to be human. The staff, they're so worried about keeping their jobs, hitting their numbers, that they forget why we're really here, to nourish people, body and soul. Not just their stomachs. His words hit her like a physical blow. You think the staff is too focused on numbers? I think they're scared, William said gently. Good people, all of them. But scared people don't smile from their hearts. They smile because they have to. There's a difference, and guests can feel it, even if they don't know why. Sarah felt her carefully constructed world tilting on its axis. And the owner? What would you say to them if you could? William looked directly at her, and for a moment, she had the unsettling feeling that he knew exactly who she was. I'd say 3 words, ma'am. Just 3 words. What words? Remember your why. The tears came before she could stop them. Remember your why. 3 simple words that shattered every defense she'd built. She remembered her why. Oh, God, she remembered. She'd been that struggling single mother, working 3 jobs, dreaming of opening a small cafe where people could come and feel like family, where nobody would be judged for splitting an entree or ordering the cheapest item, where warmth mattered more than Michelin stars. When had she lost that? When had her dream of nourishing people become just about profit margins and expansion, and crushing the competition? I'm sorry, she whispered, wiping her eyes. And then she couldn't help it. I'm the owner. I'm Sarah Chen. I own this restaurant and 14 others. William didn't look surprised. He simply nodded, his expression gentle. I wondered. You've got the eyes of someone carrying a heavy burden. You're not angry? That I was here undercover, judging everyone? Angry? No, ma'am. Sad, maybe. For you. You've built something magnificent. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing the magic in it. You stopped seeing the people. Sarah sank into a nearby chair, her shoulders shaking. William sat down beside her. This elderly janitor who'd just taught her more about leadership than any business school ever had. My daughter died 8 years ago, she found herself saying, words she rarely spoke aloud. Cancer, like your wife. She was only 15. After that, I threw myself into work. Building, expanding, succeeding. I told myself I was honoring her memory by being successful. But the truth is, I was running. And I became so hard, so focused on perfection, that I forgot. She looked up at him. I forgot my why. William's hand, weathered and warm, covered hers. Then it's time to remember. Ms. Chen, it's never too late to come home to yourself. They sat in silence for a moment. And Sarah felt something shift inside her, something fundamental and irrevocable. She looked around her restaurant with new eyes, seeing not metrics and margins, but people. The nervous couple now sharing their chocolate souffle with radiant smiles. The single mother whose toddler was happily coloring, giving her a moment of peace. The elderly woman who'd been dining alone, now lingering over coffee, still smiling at whatever William had said to her. This was her why. This had always been her why. William, she said suddenly, how would you like to be our director of guest experience? He laughed, a rich sound that seemed to come from his soul. "I'm 73 years old, ma'am, and I've been a janitor my whole life. And you understand hospitality? Better than anyone in my organization. Please, help me remember. Help me teach my staff to remember. Help me build what this was always meant to be." William studied her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "On one condition. You keep me on the cleaning rotation, too. I like the work. It keeps me humble, and I see things from the floor that you miss from the office." Sarah laughed through her tears. "Deal!" In the months that followed, everything changed. Sarah restructured her entire company around 3 words: remember your why. She instituted profit sharing, so staff weren't just fighting for jobs but building careers. She created a random acts of kindness fund that each employee could access to help guests in need. She slowed her expansion plans and focused instead on deepening the culture at existing restaurants. William became a legend in the organization, the janitor turned executive who never stopped mopping floors. He trained staff not just in service standards, but in seeing people, really seeing them. Guest satisfaction soared, but more importantly, employee satisfaction transformed. People stopped working from fear and started working from purpose. Sarah kept that corner booth in the Chicago flagship for herself, but not for undercover visits. She ate there once a week without disguise, welcoming staff and guests to join her. She shared her story openly, the daughter she'd lost, the purpose she'd forgotten, the janitor who'd saved her with 3 words. 1 year after that pivotal night, Sarah and William stood together at the restaurant's anniversary celebration. The place was packed, but now it felt different, warmer, more alive. Laughter came easier. Hugs were common. First dates and last dates and every date in between were celebrated as the sacred moments they were. "You know," Sarah said to William, "you gave away $20 that night. That gift has turned into millions in renewed purpose and profit. Best investment anyone ever made in my company." William smiled his crinkled-eye smile. "Wasn't an investment, Ms. Chen. It was just love. Love always multiplies if you let it." He was right, of course. Sarah had learned that success without humanity was just noise, that the highest form of leadership was service, that sometimes the most powerful thing a CEO could do was remember she was human first, and it had all started with 3 words from a janitor who cleaned floors and touched hearts. Remember your why. In the corner booth, a young couple nervously studied the menu, clearly stretching their budget for a special night. Sarah caught her head chef's eye and nodded toward their table. Minutes later, the couple received a complimentary appetizer from the house to celebrate young love. Their faces lit up with surprise and joy, and Sarah felt her daughter's presence so strongly she could almost touch it. This was the legacy that mattered. Not the buildings or the profits or the magazine covers, just this. Nourishing people, body and soul, one moment of kindness at a time. She looked over at William, who was helping a bus boy learn the art of anticipating a guest's needs before they asked. He caught her eye and smiled. "Remember your why," his expression seemed to say. She smiled back, tears of gratitude in her eyes. She remembered. Finally, beautifully, she remembered, and she would never forget again.